Hey everybody, it's Tom here, your ceramic instructor. Oh shoot, my mask, I forgot. I was on the trail this morning. Anyways, be safe out there and make sure you wear a mask. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make a coil pot. Okay, this is a coil pot I made a while ago. It's been all smooth. I built coils up to make the wall of the pot. And then at the top here, you can see I did a course of these swirl pieces and little faces. And then I topped it off with this big coil on top to kind of finish it off with this rim. You can see this has all been smoothed off and the inside's been smoothed off. One thing we have to do, even if you want all the coils to show on the outside, you have to smooth out the inside to make sure they're very well put together, melded together, and it'll structurally be stronger that way. Okay, first thing we got to do is we need to make the base. And I'm going to show you two ways to make the base. One with the slab roller, like we have at school, and one that you can make at home. Okay, I'm going to take this piece of clay here. Okay, and you can see I've cut some pieces of clay in increments. Oops. And these I'm going to make my coils out of. This is going to be another base I'm going to show you. But what you do when you cut your clay, make sure you pull it down, cut 2 inches off or so, like this. And I'll show you real quick. Take this off, cut this in half, and then cut the pieces that you need off of this chunk, okay? And then you'll pound them down so you don't fold the clay over and put air into the clay. And let me put these back in here, cover this up. Grab my piece of clay. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pound it into a ball. I'm going to take all these corners off, like this. Okay. Then I'm going to pound it into an oval piece like this. I'm going to pound it with my hand, with the palm of my hand. Then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to pound it this way, okay, until I get it to about, I want to try and make it as even as possible, okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rolling pin, okay. You can use any rolling pin at home. And what I'm going to do, if you have slats that like paint sticks that are, you know, about an inch, quarter of an inch thick, you can use those, but I'm just going to do this freehand, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and spread this, okay, until I have more of a circle form. You can see it's getting thin. You can see it's a little bit uneven, so I'm going to turn it this way, turn it the other way. First I rolled it this way, now I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to roll it. What you want to press, you want to move the clay, but you don't want to press really hard and get it super thin in any spot. I'm going to turn it, then I'm going to turn it on a diagonal. I'm going to turn it on a diagonal again. And what I'm doing is, now I'm going over it lightly, making it as even as possible. Okay, and that's good. We're there at about 1/4 of an inch thickness. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out. Now there's a couple ways. I showed the students in the class how to cut it out on a banding wheel or on a wheel, on a potter's wheel, but you can just use a round form as a template if you want to make a round, a form that has a round base like the one I made. This one I cut out round, okay? So you're going to take your fettling knife, your metal knife, hold the form that you're using as a template, draw around it, okay, and then cut it out. And there we have our base. Take this excess clay, get it damp, If you have another plastic bag, you can set it in there, or you can put it back in your bag here. Just don't want to mix it up. You can use this as coils if you can pound it all and get the air out of it. Okay, there I have, that's the one way to make a base. The next way to make a base is with the slab roller like we have at school, and we're going to be making some pieces with slabs. Now I'm going to pound this down, get the corners off of it, make it in a oval form again, like a long coil type form. I'm going to pound it down this way. Now with this machine, it's only going to push the clay out this way. It's not going to make it any wider this way, okay? So we want to make it into a form that's taller if we want to make a circle, okay? Pound this down to about, that's about 1/2 inch. I'm going to put it in the machine. I'm going to roll it, okay? Then I'm going to back off the machine. The ones at school have they're more narrow, so you can flap the fabric over and then roll it back, then flap the fabric back so you don't get your hand stuck behind the roller. But mine has a huge sheet here, and it'll pull it right down. You can see when this went in, it was longer this way. Now see, it pushed all the clay that way. All right, so now that we have this, there's a couple things that I like to do with slabs. One of the things is I like to do embossings. And here I have a heart. I have a heart, I have an ohm, and I have a bee. And they were all cut out of this foam paper. Get the thinner stuff. It's about 1/16 of an inch thick. Comes in 8x5 sheets. I have some. You can make some. You don't need to make it. This is just a fun way to make an image into your slab. I can do this. I can either roll it with the roller and it'll press it in, or I can take the my rolling pin and roll that in. Okay. If you're doing the embossing, do the embossing first, then cut out the shape, because it's going to distort the shape. I'm going to pull this out of here and see it made a heart on my, okay, anyways, so I'm going to take this larger shape. I'm going to make a larger base. I have just enough here. This time I'm going to cut it with my pin tool. Cut it with your knife, cut it with your pin tool. And there I have a round base for my coil pot. If you want to start with a broader shape, or you want to start with a narrower shape, we're going to make a 6-inch pinch pot. You can make it taller, but it has to be at least 6 inches tall. Okay, I'm going to start with this small base. Okay, let me set this aside. Now, when you're making your coils, you want to start out with a piece of clay, probably about this big. Okay, this is probably a 1/4 pound. You can start out with a little bit more. Okay, let me move my clay. And I'm going to build this on a board. Now, this is a masonite board. Okay, I can build it on this. I can build it on a piece of drywall. But you want to build it on a board so you can move it around, because once you start building on it, it's going to get really soft. You don't want to change the shape. You don't want to distort your shape, okay? The other thing you can use is you can use a piece of plywood, or if you have some really thick cardboard, like double thick, you know, but drywall, a masonite, or a piece of wood. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my coil. So the trick to making a nice round coil is to start off by forming it by hand. Okay, you see this? Forming it with your hand, making a coil, a thick coil. This is probably 3/4 of an inch thick so far. Okay, hand forming it first, making it about this size first, and then rolling. What you're going to do is you're going to roll with your fingers up to about this part of your palm. and you're going to move the clay out. And as I do that, I'm going to see like some thick and some thin spots. And I'm actually getting, my coil's getting a little bit oblong in shape. It's getting a little bit ovaloided in its in its profile. And so it's starting to bump on me a little bit. And that may happen to you. So what you do is you put it on the high side to where it's the tallest it could be, and then you press down with your fingers on it. It makes it more square, and then you continue rolling, and it'll get rid of that lump that you have, that bumping action. Okay, once I get this to about, I would say this is just about 1/4 of an inch. Might be a little bit thicker than that. And you'll see, you'll have a thin spot here. Stay away from that spot. You got a thick spot, you can roll on that. Keep using, you can see what I'm using, right? These part of my fingers, rolling it across. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scratching rib, and I'm going to scratch the base. This is nice to have a small, it's nice to have the board because you can spin the board while you're working on it. Okay, over scratch. Go in further towards the center than what you need. Okay, we want to make sure that we have a really super good connection. Now I'm going to scratch this. The coil. Then I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to have my water. I'm going to brush it with water, combining with the scratching and the water and the base here. Okay. And then I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to press down on the base all the way around. Press. We want a really good connection on this foundation coil. And here I'm coming around, and right here I'm going to press the end of this coil down so it's down at an angle. So this coil will just go right up on top of this next layer. I'm going to get this wet. Oh, I might go all the way around, who knows. Okay, and then I'm going to keep pressing. You want to make sure you press, 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 down. Now if you want to go straight up, you go right on top of that other coil. You want to move it out, you go a little bit outside of that coil. Or you can form that when I show you how to connect the coils together. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this bottom coil to the floor of the pot, to the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press with my finger, my index finger, and I'm pressing down on the side of that coil, and I'm pressing it into the slab base, and I'm supporting it with my outside hand as I'm doing it, because I don't want to push that coil off the base. Okay, all the way around. See how I did that? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run my finger along there and get rid of all that texture that I made with my finger as I was pressing it down. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wood knife and I'm going to slightly go underneath the base, not too far, just enough to kind of curl it up, and you'll see that moisture comes squeezing out of that joint between the slab and the coil. And then I'm going to go over with my finger and smooth that off. And there I have the bottom coil on there really well. And I'm going to be able to clean this up later also. Okay, next, make another coil. Got my other piece of clay. Keep your clay covered. You see this? I have it covered. Keep it covered. Pound it down. Don't make all your coils and start and then have them sitting there. You want to make them as you go. Okay, here we go. Hand form it. Okay. Then roll it out. Using these fingers, just go right to this area. You don't have to go all the way to the palm of your hand. You can see I'm doing a full revolution. I'm keeping an eye on where it's thick, where it's thin. If it starts bumping, you can press it down. And that looks pretty good. Scratch this. Press that coil down right there. That's where I'm going to start. Scratch this. When we meld these together, we're going to even this wall out. Now, I already have one student in class that's leaving her coils showing the outside, and she really defined them with a tool. And she's using that as, you know, like a surface embellishment, the actual forming technique. Ooh, did I give that some water? Okay, pressing down, pressing down. Here I get to the next course. I'm going to scratch this. Add some more water. All the way around. Pressing it down. Okay, that looks good. Okay, I got a few courses there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth the inside. I'm going to use my scratching rib. I'm going to support it from the outside with my hand, the wall, and I'm going to scratch the wall. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up at a diagonal, and it's going to press all the clay, the high points of the coil, into the depressions. And I'm going to get a nice flat wall surface here. It's going to be, all those coils are going to be joined together so nicely. And they're going to stay together all the way through all the drawing process and the firing process. Okay. And there we go. It's all scratched. See that? They're all melted together. Now I'm going to take my smooth rib and I'm going to go over. Now you can make, you don't have to have a round base. You can have an ovaloid base. Okay, everything has to have rounded corners. You can have an amorphic kind of a shape if you want to do that. That's fine, like a, what's the word? Just kind of an organic shaped base. And then that'll be the top profile of your piece. And you can do that if you want. But you can also do it round like I'm doing it. Okay. Now I got that pretty smoothed off. Okay. I'm going to go around this bottom part with my finger again to get that really smooth. And I can come back in here and smooth off those marks a little bit. Even with my finger right now, because the clay is so soft. You always want to support that wall from the outside. Okay. And the other thing I could do is I could do it on the outside as well. So I would scratch the surface first. And then I would take my smooth rib and go over it. Now once you make these pieces and you get them all finished, your form, you can embellish them, you can add clay onto the surface. The thing is, the clay has to be moist to add clay onto it, as I told you. If you don't finish your pot the first day, you want to cover it, you want to kind of spritz it, cover it really well, so that the next day when you go to add on the next coil, it's nice and moist. Okay, I'm going to show you something now. I'm going to make a small coil. I'm going to use some of this clay that I've botched up. And I'm going to make some swirl shapes right here. Okay, so I'm going to make a thinner coil. Okay, and this will probably make two. I'll make two out of this. I'm trying to go fast so it doesn't take forever to upload this video. Okay, now this one you can see is a little bit thinner than the ones that I was building on, one on top of each other. See that? Okay. And I'm going to pound this down, flatten it out. We're going to make two out of this, so I'm going to cut this in half. Now you can do this right at your kitchen table. Okay, clay cleans up with water. And you could keep building on this pot and make a pot this big right in your house. Okay, as long as somebody doesn't get too angry about it. Okay, I got that wet. I'm going to roll this up like a cinnamon roll. Or like a little snail shell. Okay. And I have this nice little shape. This nice little image from the coil that I can leave exposed, and it'll be very interesting. You know, I've had students that they make little increments, little balls of clay, little like straight pieces of clay. They'll make some swirls. They'll make a couple swirls and they'll go over it with a coil. Then they'll come down. Then they'll make few more swirls, and they'll make this whole pattern that's like free form, which is a lot of fun for anybody building with coils. Okay, so what I just did with this is I scratched the back of it, or one side of it anyways, and then I'm smoothing it off with the smooth rib, so it's all smooth on one side, and the swirl is still showing here. I'm going to make another one here. This time I'm just going to use water. You don't have to scratch these. As long as you use water, the clay's really wet, it'll stick. And we're gonna meld it together on the back side of this little swirly. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna scratch the back. Keep your scratching rib clean. Take the clay off it, the excess clay. It works better that way. I'm gonna smooth this off. And so basically, coiling is building up with the coils or with these increments or little shapes, okay? I'm gonna make a little piece to go in between these two swirls, because when I put these together, I'm gonna have an open space here, okay? Like a piercing, like a little window. Okay, now you can leave that. It makes it a little bit difficult when you're glazing, because when you pour the glaze in, it goes pouring all over the place. But those, we can get around that. If that's what you'd like to do, we can do that, or you can do that. Okay, I'm going to scratch where it's going to go together. I'm going to scratch this little piece. This is going to be like a little triangle, because that's what's going to fit right in between those two circles like that. Okay. Scratch this. Now usually if you're going to do a whole course of these, the best thing to do is make your increments, your shapes, whether they're swirls or whether they're just pads of clay, okay? Or little balls of clay. Make them, keep them in your plastic, make a bunch of them, then do your building after. But keep them under plastic because the smaller the piece of clay, the faster it dries. Okay, I got that one there. I'm gonna scratch this, which I forgot to do. Okay. Yeah, I was out on the trail today. It's really nice. Wore my mask. Saw a bunch of people wearing masks. Even out on the trail, you know. It's a good thing. Keep our fellow citizens safe and sound. Press this up against here. Okay. Then after I would do that, if I did a whole course of these, I'd go all the way around and then I would go ahead and meld them together. Make sure that all the bonds, all the places where they touch each other are melded together. Okay? And then I go over it with my smooth rib. Okay? Now I can kind of get this thing to start moving out by pinching it. If you want to make it move out, it gets a little bit thinner, but if you're going to build something that goes out, do it gradually. Don't go out really fast because a lot of times you'll get, it just can't, it's not structurally strong enough when it's wet like this to hold this kind of an angle. Then you're going to have some cracking in here. So build up gradually, and if you're going to flare it out, move out gradually. If you're going to go back in, just move the coils a little bit on the inside, and as you're forming it, move it in and then build that coil in a little bit on the inside, and then you could make like a closed, more of a closed bottle form. Okay, we're going to go 6 inches tall on this. So, I mean, that's the minimum. That's like this tall, okay? It's like this tall. This is like 3 inches tall already here. So that's what you want to do. If you want to make it bigger, feel free. Make a nice flower pot like I made. And just make sure that if you don't finish it right in one sitting, you cover it really super well. And see how nice it is? I can move this around because it's on the board. Okay, any questions? No, because you're not here. Thanks for watching. Listen, I'll see you in class soon. And all those students that aren't feeling well, I hope you get better really fast. All right? All right, bye.